You know what's insanely crazy and spooky? Did you know that the movie Rust is about a 14-year-old boy who was on the run because he accidentally killed somebody. And it's based on a true story. A boy who accidentally killed a rancher and is on the run because he was sentenced to hang for an accidental murder. And that is the premise of the movie Rust. A boy on the run because of an accidental murder. And the movie leads to an accidental murder. And they went ahead and finished that movie anyway. Wow. That is bizarre. Bizarre fact I didn't know. Hello, my lovely peaches. Well, yesterday I thought I was going to go out for a walk and talk again, and then I just didn't. And I thought, well, it's okay. I'll go out today. It'll be nice. I'll go for a lovely walk. And then I stayed up real late. I slept real late. And now it's a fucking rainy ugh. So I just thought, well, hello, it's freezing, it's raining, it's icky out. I'm not gonna come out in this for a walk. I wanted to do another part talking more about, well, so I did a video for Patreon members yesterday. I'm going back inside already. It's nasty. Freezing cold. And I really wanted to do a follow-up video talking more about my thoughts. And I was hoping to do a nice walk and talk outside, but as you can see, that's not going to happen. So, woo. All right. Well, I'll get myself together and I'll talk in a little while. All right, so I've sat down and I am here at my computer. Got you in the windowsill so you can hear the rain and the cars going by. And I was just reading my comments. So I actually was thinking, like, do I want to make this video about, like, continuing on with the video I made yesterday for Patreon and members on YouTube, where it was a video therapy session where I do mention Hannah Gutierrez a little bit, but mostly I'm talking about myself because that's what it was about. It's a video therapy session for me, talking about what I'm up to lately, my thoughts, my feelings, all that stuff. That's what it's about. And I also wanted to make another video about, should Hannah be in jail? Or now Hannah's in jail. And so I did get some backlash on the comments for the video that literally says in the title, my unpopular opinion. And then there's like a couple of people commenting like, oh, what did that guy say? Good Lord, learn how to think. Oh, except for the way I read the comment was like, good Lord, learn how to think, girl. I think he had a cowboy hat on. Yeah, David Kidd. Good Lord, learn how to think. When I saw his picture, that's just how it sounded. And I'm like, that's so fucking funny. I don't have a TV. I don't really like to watch TV, but I do like to, watch stuff, of course. And I like to look at things on YouTube. And my relaxing, my fun, the thing I like to do for entertainment is to watch Alita Legal Bites, she's a lawyer on YouTube. I watch Emily D. Baker, she's a lawyer on YouTube. I watch Peter Tragos, lawyer, he's a lawyer on YouTube. Oh, of course, there's Natalie Lawyer Chick that I love to listen to. And then there's also Boss Attorney Bree. And I gotta leave her a comment to tell her, well, you were right, girl, because we had a healthy debate. And she said all her reasons why she believed Hannah was guilty. And it didn't descend into rude insults. It didn't turn into anger. It didn't get ugly. It didn't become an insulting name-calling match. She said everything that she had to say. I listened very intently. I made comments and questions that she commented on that she didn't agree with. And I deeply respect her. And I feel that when you're having a healthy debate that's respectful between two people, both people can come away with a greater understanding. And whether you have your opinion shifted or you've just gained a better understanding of what someone else's opinion is, either way, it's growth. It's a win-win-win. But when people start to call you names and insult your intelligence and insult the way that you think and call you nasty, little insults that they got off the internet streets, then there's no more discussion. You're just being abusive. And you're just verbally abusing somebody online because they have a different opinion than you. And then you want to somehow tear them down when, in fact, you're the one who doesn't look very intelligent. But anyway, yeah, so those are the things that I like to watch. There's so many other people I do love to watch. I mean, I have a very, very long list of people that I love. Ralph Smart. I do like listening to philosophizers of some type. And there's a lot of things that I like. I love listening to interesting things like David Friedman, The Thought Exchange, learning how to think differently. And I love foreign films because a lot of foreign films have qualities that American films just don't, and foreign shows as well. And I watch them stream trials and give their legal analysis and thoughts. And I just think it's kind of funny, like telling me to learn how to think, and my entertainment is watching court trials. I mean, it's just funny to me because like a few years ago I wasn't into it, and I don't want to be a lawyer. I have no interest in being a lawyer, but I'm interested in the law in these ways. I don't know. I don't really know like how I got to be so into it. I mean, I guess I watched the Johnny Depp trial. I think I was watching some things before that, which is, I don't know. Anyway, I'm going on a little tangent, but I just thought it was kind of funny that my pastime is watching legal analysis and being a deeply introspective, self-reflective person who's always thinking about my own personal, emotional, mental, spiritual, physical evolution and up-leveling. And yes, so I am actually learning how to think. And in fact, David you kid, learning how to discern is such an important thing that I believe I can invite people to do. I can invite people to do. And learning how to learn is very important. And I agree with you. Learning how to think. Good Lord, learn how to think. Oh, and then there was another couple of people who had very strong opinions about my opinion. And I think it's very interesting that some people have such incredibly strong opinions and have no problem spewing them in a comment or in many comments online. And yet, like, okay, so there's this one person, I'm not going to say your name. I don't believe you deserve for me to say your name on YouTube, because, so first, I expected, like I said, my unpopular opinion, I expected people to disagree with me. And I said, like, I think the first thing I said in that video was, I've learned that I don't mind being the only person who thinks the thing. And maybe I'm the only person in the whole world who thinks that. And I'm going to get to the issue with Hannah Gutierrez-Reed and what I was saying about, should she be in jail? Well, she is. Whether I think she should or not, don't matter, right? I'm not like gonna go get her out of jail. So whether I think, my opinion, you know, it's not like I'm gonna take my opinion and run and do some kind of insurrection or something, you know. Anyway, I'm just trying to get to the point that, so this person commented and had a very strong opinion about how stupid I am. And so I was like writing back and forth a little bit, even though this person was obviously rude. And then it became clear to me, like, you didn't even listen to my video. I can tell you didn't even listen, because the shit that you're saying in your comments it's obvious that you don't even know what you're talking about, because if you listened to what I had said, I don't think you would be spewing such anger and stupidity online. And then he said, or they, I don't know, said, I could only listen to 2 minutes. It's an hour and 20-minute video or something, and you listen to 2 minutes, and then you want to spew all your stupid thing, you know. And then the last thing he said, or they said, is, it's just like mind-boggling. Like, literally their comment was put in, it was flagged in the inappropriate. You know, when you're a YouTube creator, you can have some well, YouTube does it automatically with some comments. It just flags some comments. Well, if you have that, like, hold potentially inappropriate comments, and anytime somebody says something like rude or potentially inappropriate, YouTube will not post that comment until the creator approves it or not. So it was, to me, it was racist, sexist, gender. It's like the stupidest thing. And like, when people shout out Karen and liberal, you're automatically an idiot. Like, I have no tolerance for that kind of stuff. And it's so ignorant. You are so ignorant. And just like a few times, there's people who've said rude stuff on my comments, and then I talk about it in a video, and I know that they're never going to hear it. This person spent all that time writing back and forth with me. I even was chuckling about it to myself a little bit, like last night, for a split second. Like, this person seems to think that I'm so stupid or whatever, but yet you kept commenting, you kept coming back. Obviously it was on your mind. Being online, putting yourself out there, obviously you've got to have a healthy balance between letting idiots get to you and being open to having an interesting dialogue with people, and then just sort of letting it completely just bounce off of you, you know. And I mentioned another creator who I used to love to follow, but then I got turned off. One, because she would wear the same sweatshirt every day, and that was like weird to me, and also because she turned off comments. But on one hand, I understand, like, she probably turned off comments because it can be hard emotionally. It can be a challenge to open yourself up to anyone on the internet. Perfect example, me judging her because she wore the same sweatshirt every single day. And I mentioned Ralph Smart in this video about how much I love him, and I used to love how he would just be dressed in whatever he was dressed in, and his hair was however his hair was. And then at one point he started to wear a suit, and like every video he had the same suit, and I actually stopped watching him. I'm like, you're giving Max Headroom vibes. I'm not into this. It just feels so canned, so fake, so overproduced in his case. And now he stopped wearing the same thing every time. But in her case, I got vibes like, you're just a stanky bitch. Like, you are wearing the same sweatshirt every single day. I'm getting a sense like you smell. Or you're weird. Like, it's obsessive. There's something obsessive to me about a person who would literally wear the same exact shirt every day. That means there's something weird about the way you think, because nobody does that. Nobody does that in real life. Or if you do, something's weird with you. And that's what I'm saying. Open yourself up to the internet, people judging you about the weirdest shit. And, and I get it. People are going to judge me about the weirdest shit. And that's just part of being a creator online. And people, like, I don't mind when people are disagreeing with me, but they're respectful and they say what their reasons are. They say what their opinion is, but they do it like the guy's like, somebody like you should never be a juror. I'm like, oh, somebody who doesn't have a bias, who doesn't snap to a decision, who's going to weigh all of the evidence, who's going to actually take the time to contemplate all of the circumstances. That's exactly who should be on a jury. And then that person says, within less than 2 minutes, he already decided a whole bunch of stuff about me as a person and my thoughts and my beliefs and the way. I mean, it's just so, it's really mind-boggling that people will tell you, you are this, that, and the other thing, which you are exactly not. And that's exactly what they are. And it's like, are you really that unaware? Wow. Woo! Take a breath. Well, I'm just going to jump in to say, okay, that guy sent another message calling me a libtard, which is the stupidest, it's like the dumbest thing I've ever heard. And I really just cringe when people just make insults. You called me a Karen. You said I'm a libtard. What was the other word you said? I don't know. It's just like when people get nasty and they just start insulting you. And it's like all of that because you didn't like the fact that I thought that Hannah maybe shouldn't go to jail. Like, that's literally what this is about. And this person, because I expressed on a video that I don't think that she should go to jail, this person feels it's appropriate to make all kinds of assumptions and insults about me. And I feel that it's sad, it's pathetic, and it's disgusting. And the last couple comments that he wrote were blocked by YouTube because they were offensive. So, and then the last thing he said was, oh, you're a libtard, you assume I'm racist and homophobic, but I'm a black man. Well, that is pathetic that you would walk around with that kind of hate. But unfortunately, all kinds of people have hate. And you don't have to be a certain color or race or religion to be a hateful person. And that's unfortunate, but not surprising because this is the internet. And when you're walking out on the internet streets, you're going to have some nasty people. And hopefully you'll get yourself together, like I said in the comment. But yet it's not my responsibility to school you or to train you or to teach you or to raise you. So, you have your own opinion and it sucks. And that's your right. Then there's other kind of disagreements, which is not like as rude as that other guy, but still rude. The Chevy says, this is such a bad take. Did you even watch the trial? This is such a bad take. Did you even watch the trial? And then says, there are industry standards. For example, don't hold a real shotgun by the barrel, blah, blah, blah. Okay. So I respond, LOL, did you even watch the trial? They literally testified that there is no industry standard that you have no permit, no license, no certification, no test, no prerequisite that you have to have in order to be an armorer. That is what they said in the trial. I didn't make that up. I didn't just pull that out of my fucking fantasy made up shit and then make a video talking about it. That's what they said at the trial. Maybe it was my fault for being unclear. There's standards that people in the industry may practice, but there's no legal requirement across the board, no standard license, certification, test, qualification that is standardized in a legal way across the board in order to be able to be an armorer. That's the distinction. I'm not saying that no one follows standards or that there's no kind of way of being an armorer that most people tend to do. I'm saying what was testified to at that trial was that there's no legal requirement of a license, certification, etc. that is required in order to be an armorer. And in fact, Sarah Zachary testified that she herself had very little training and was an armorer. Okay, and it was also testified that Hannah had very little training and was an armorer. So that's what I'm talking about. I'm not saying nobody follows any kind of standard way of behaving. I'm saying it has not been a legalized standard requirement. And there's a distinction. Like a legal standard. If there's no legal standard in the industry, then that means somebody can fall through the cracks. Somebody could get hired. This is the point. If in order to be an armorer, you had to have 1, 2, 3, XYZ was required by law, then this would have been a very different case, right? Number one, she would have never been hired, not legally. Number two, if they hired her without the proper legal requirements to be an armorer, if there were some, then the producers, whoever hired her, would be legally responsible. Now, would she also be legally responsible for accepting a job that she didn't have the qualifications for? Then she'd have to be held responsible because she would have either not been qualified to get the job without the certification, or she would have had to lie that she had the certification. So either way, she's being held responsible or she's being blocked from even being put in that position, which is the more important and hoped for outcome, that people who don't have the certification are blocked from getting those jobs until they've gone through the process of getting certified by getting their experience and taking the test and doing whatever all that they need to do, just like you would do a driver's license. In order to get a driver's license, you need to study and take a written exam, and then you need to study and practice driving with a permit, and then you need to take a driving test, and then there's a bunch of things that you have to do in order to pass that test. So that's what standards that are legally required and standardized and testing and certifications and stuff do. They make sure that people go through the process. Now, do people get driver's licenses and have accidents and drive wrong and break the law and speed and do stupid shit? Yes, they do. Okay, but because there's a clear law, when they've broken the law, it's clear. It's like if you don't have a speeding limit, if you don't have a speed limit and then somebody's driving, then there's no way to say, hey, you're speeding, because there's no limit. So that's why you need to have standardized rules and tests and things, so that if you want to drive a car, you have to be a certain age and you have to pass the test and you have to pass the driving test and you have to be eligible and you have to have the insurance and all the things. You have to have all the things. That helps, doesn't totally erase accidents. It doesn't mean people are never going to break the law, but there's clear guidelines to follow. So this person said, what about a DoorDash? DoorDash, there's no certification you need to be DoorDash. Really? Having a driver's license is a requirement. So, boom. Like first thing out the gate, you're immediately false, because you cannot get a job as a DoorDash delivery person if you don't have a driver's license. And a driver's license is required by the state to drive a car. Not only that, but in order to drive a car, you also have to have car insurance. You also have to have your car registered. Okay? So if you don't have a driver's license, you can't get the job. If you don't have a registered car, you can't get the job. Maybe they can give you their own car, but that's the whole point of DoorDash, is that you have your own car. That it's not a job hiring you as a delivery person, giving you their car. You have your own car. So you have to have your own car. You have to have a driver's license. You have to have that car registered at the Division of Motor Vehicles, or the whatever they call it now. It's getting dark, but I just thought of, you probably also have to have a cell phone. Because if you don't have a cell phone, then how are you going to receive all of the DoorDash information and know where to go and accept a job and take a picture and show that you're done and all this stuff? So you do need to have a cell phone. So while that might not be like a required thing legally, there are basic requirements. In order to be a DoorDash operator or freelance person, independent contractor, you've got to have a driver's license, you've got to have car registration, you've got to have car insurance, and you have to have a cell phone. So that's 4 things that are required in order to have that job. Then we can probably add a couple more requirements, like you probably have to have a clean driving record, which means no speeding tickets, no points for moving violations, no outstanding warrants, no unpaid fines and tickets and things like that. So those are other requirements that you would probably have to show that you have that standard. So that's another requirement that would probably go into some level of dashing. And you need to have the appropriate driver's license, car insurance that is required in the state where you're going to work. So you obviously need all these things required by law in order to get that job. And just popping on because that person left a literal fucking novel. Unbelievable. I only read part of it. Like, are you crazy? Okay. And they said, well, you can do a bike. Okay. Well, I just looked up real quick. You need to be 18 years old. You must have an iPhone or Android smartphone and complete the sign-up process. You must have a driver's license. And it does say that you can use somebody else's car, but you are required to have a valid driver's license, insurance, and a clean driving record. In certain markets, you can also do DoorDash via motorcycle, bike, e-bike, or scooter, but you still are required to have a driver's license. And you also have to have insurance. Okay? So, yeah, there's that. You need a license. You've got to be 18. You also can't have felonies. It also said over here, you're disqualified if you've had sexual offenses, drug or alcohol abuse, including a DUI or a felony conviction. You must have a valid driver's license, insurance, and a clean driving record. Okay? You need to have a license even if you use a bike. You may be able to get the job with a state-issued ID, but you're still going to need that state-issued ID, which is still a requirement, and you're going to need insurance. So Then the second part of that person's comment was, so if the DoorDash delivery takes a bag of rat poison and gives the bag of rat poison to the person instead of the bag of food they ordered, they're not responsible. Are you 12 years old? Like, really? Like, and that's another thing that I'm realizing. When you get a comment back, I mean, yeah, David had a picture of a 60-year-old looking dude. So obviously I don't think he's a kid, David. But, you know, anybody could put any photo. So, you know, you can't really go by that. And then, but the thing is, it's like whether you're a 60-year-old man with the mentality of a 12-year-old or you're a 12-year-old being a 12-year-old, I don't know. And so, like I said in another video, while I'm not necessarily interested in building a community per se, because as an introvert, I'm not necessarily trying to be in charge of anybody. Like, I don't know, community to me, it's like a community kind of gets built. Yes, people can build a community, but I'm not here to build a community. I'm just me making videos. I make videos to discuss the things that I want to discuss. I make videos because I like to make videos, and I like to be a content creator. I like to be a video creator. I like to share my thoughts, and I do enjoy the engagement. I do enjoy comments. I do enjoy questions, but there has to be a limit and a balance, and there has to be some boundaries. So with that, I do want to say thank you to everybody who has been watching my videos and subscribing to my channel. I appreciate it, and I appreciate you. So another person whose comment I felt was a biased comment in the perspective of, like, if you were looking at it from a juror, specifically for the Hannah Gutierrez trial. And that person was like, you know, non-industry people like you don't know what they're talking about, and you're blathering on about stuff you don't even know about, and that, you know, in 20 years there hasn't been any kind of problems and stuff. And that could not be more true. I'm not an industry person. I don't know really much, if anything, about guns. I don't like guns. I don't like to watch movies about guns. I don't like Westerns. I had no interest in that movie. I had no interest in this trial. That I had no preconceived bias. I had no preconceived prejudice for or against. So the whole reason I got into this trial at all was because I watch Alita Legal Bites. One of those reasons why I was like, I'm not interested in this trial. But because I watch Alita, and because I watch Emily, and because I watch Peter, and because they all were streaming it, I was like, well, I love them. So I started getting glimpses of it in the beginning, and then I got hooked, and I started watching. I didn't watch from day one, or as Alita says, gavel to gavel, but I did watch about 90% of it. And I listened to, well, maybe I watched like 80% of it, okay? But, you know, it's long and it's boring, and there's a lot of questions, and there's a lot of like sidebars and pausing and all this stuff. Like, it's not for the faint of heart. Sitting and listening to a trial. I mean, before this trial, I was watching Alita. She does classic trials, and she's been streaming the Menendez brothers trial on Mondays for like a whole year. So I've been watching that. I mean, I've been watching a lot of various trials, and it's an extremely interesting, long, drawn-out process, and you have to be willing to listen to the evidence and be open. So I realized that in Hannah Gutierrez's case, a lot of people, most people, thought that she was guilty, and I understand that. So back to what I was saying about the licensing. Okay, if Hannah should never have been hired, because there's a requirement by law, let's say, that in order to be an armorer, you need to have said license, said certification, said amount of hours, You know, like being a parachute instructor, you have to have X amount of hours of instruction. Like there's a lot of jobs where in order to get the job, you have to have a certain amount of hours studying, a certain amount of hours practicing, okay? So if that were the case in this case, then Rush Production would have been held legally liable because they hired somebody who wasn't responsible, who wasn't qualified. And maybe that's coming, but it seems to me that David Hall's got off with, all he had to do was take a class, and he was on probation, but unsupervised probation, which is over now. So he had to take a gun class. And Sarah Zachary got off with nothing. Seth Kinney got off with nothing. Alec Baldwin is going to have his trial in July. We'll find out what happens with him. I will be very surprised, to be honest, if he gets convicted or any kind of jail time, because with the lawyers that he can afford and the defense that he would be able to put on and the time and the effort that his lawyers, and I would imagine his team of lawyers, are going to impeach every witness and pull out every single reasonable doubt, every single thing that could potentially be reasonably doubtful. And I think that, well, because of the fact that, number one, he's the producer, number two, he's had so many years of acting with guns, I feel that he really doesn't have an excuse, because he should have known better. He should have hired better. Now, again, if there's no legal requirement that he had to do so, then this is where you say, well, now we know there needs to be the legal requirement, but can you hold somebody retroactively responsible for something that wasn't illegal at the time? Should it be illegal to hire an armorer who doesn't have any experience? Should it be illegal to not even have a full-time armorer? Should it be this, that, and the other thing? Yes, 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 yes. Yes for me, 1,000,000 times yes, infinity yes. But can you make a law today and then turn around and arrest somebody and throw them in jail because 6 months ago or a year ago when they did the thing that they did that's now illegal, it wasn't illegal, and now you want to say it's illegal? You can't do that. You cannot do that. You are not able to do that. And actually, I vaguely remember right now, this thing is popping up that Alita, Legal Bites, said something about something in Alec Baldwin's case had to do with a law that was not active at the time when it happened, and then they charged him and they had to drop it and then they recharged him. I don't know. I don't know every detail about it. I'm not pretending to have every detail about it. I'm just emphasizing that, number one, I think that his status, his wealth, the law team that he can afford will help him get off. Then at the same time, there's the fact that, like, he may be very strongly disliked. However, whether somebody's strongly disliked or not should not come into play in a legal courtroom of whether or not they committed a crime. So you might not like Alec Baldwin and you might think he's a narcissistic asshole. He called his daughter Ireland a fucking pig or something when she was 11 years old. And some people, like Emily, says she'll never forget that. Well, I used to think things like that were unbelievable. And it's not that I don't think that's a horrible thing to say and that you should not verbally abuse your children. But I've cursed at my kids too. So I'm not going to pretend like I'm some kind of saint, is the point. And cursing at your kid is not a reason why you should go to jail. Okay? So my point is, when we are putting people in jail for crimes, there are laws. I don't think that everything that's legal is good. I don't think that just because something is legal makes it okay or just. And I don't think that just because something is not the law means that it shouldn't be. You know, there's a lot of gray area. There's a lot of room to discuss. Do I think that it's a crime against humanity that Hannah Gutierrez-Reed was found guilty and now she's going to spend potentially a year and a half in jail? No, I don't think it's horrible. Somebody made a comment like they were about to burst into tears. They couldn't bear it. And, I didn't feel that intense. I feel like it's very sad. And I did think about her that night. Like, God, I can't believe it. Like, what is she going through? And I don't know. I felt, for whatever reason, I did feel some sympathy toward her. Maybe it was my maternal instinct, like that one person commented, oh, you're acting like you're her mom. So I do think that our justice system is very imbalanced. I do think that who you are and who you know and how much power you have and how much money you have and what type of law team, attorneys you can hire, all of that, of course, is going to impact the outcome of your case. And I feel like at this point, maybe Alec, I don't know. I'm definitely going to be watching his case. Alita is going to stream it, and so will Peter, Emily, maybe Natalie, maybe Bree. So do I think at this point that Alec should go to jail? I don't know. I don't like to jump to snap decisions. I like to get all the information in. I also think that sometimes things are left out in trials because it's considered more prejudicial than probative, but maybe it's important to know that. But at the same time, I won't even give an overall assessment of it, because I do believe that this is a systemically corrupt system and systemically oppressive, and I have a lot of issues with the government, etc. Okay, but all of that is just to say that this is a channel to comment and to ask questions, to ponder the evidence, to consider different perspectives. Deep dive contemplating, that's my jam. And what I'm not okay with is people thinking that they can hurl insults and start name calling and putting someone down because they have a different perspective. So I don't have tolerance for that. But I am interested in other people's perspectives when they're thoughtful and considerate and respectful. And obviously, the majority of people felt that whatever the law may or may not be when it comes to being an armorer, people wanted to make it known. At least the 12 people on the jury wanted it to be clear. Yeah, we think this girl should go to jail. They felt that what happened was enough to say she's guilty. And that wasn't my opinion. And that's okay, because that's the reality. And we'll see what happens to Alec. Now back to whether or not there's a legal requirement. Should there be a legal requirement? Absolutely, there has to be. Okay, that's what brought me back to the DoorDash thing. It's like, so if you got a job as a DoorDash person, but you didn't actually have a driver's license, then yes, of course, you would be held responsible. If you got a job driving a truck, let's say, and you lied about having a CDL license, then of course you would be held responsible. If you got a job as an armorer and there was a legal requirement to have such and such license and you lied and you got the job, then yes, you would be held responsible. So, and I never said Hannah should not be held responsible. Not once did I say, not in any way did I hint nor specifically say Hannah is not responsible. Hannah should not have to take accountability. Hannah should not have to do anything. Hannah should have no repercussions or consequences. I never said that. Never. In fact, quite the opposite. I said Hannah should have to do community service. Hannah should have to take like a whole ass course, not just one class. Hannah should have to take a whole entire course about armory and gun safety. And she should potentially have to pay fines. I don't know what her financial situation is, so having to pay a fine when you're in a dire financial situation doesn't help. Okay, and taking money from people who don't have money, I don't think that that's helpful. So I think that she should have community service. I don't know how many hours. Give the girl 100 hours of community service. I don't know. I don't know what the amount should be, but I do think that she should have to do something to help the community. And I don't think that sitting her fucking ass in a jail cell helps. Okay? I am against the prison system the way that it is, and I don't believe that throwing people in jail cells is the best way to remedy situations, especially when somebody died. People are like, somebody died, somebody needs to go to jail. Well, are you a caveman? Like, there are a lot of other ways to remedy situations and to improve situations and to learn how to learn, motherfucker. Learn how to think. Learn how to think. How does sending a girl to jail help anybody except your fucking ego? All these fucking people out here who are so hot to throw this girl in jail, I feel like a lot of people are really just looking to scapegoat somebody and to throw some girl in jail because somebody died, and it's like, and then 2 minutes later you're off to the next thing and you don't even care. And I'm actually sitting here and reasonably thinking things through for days, for hours, for weeks. I'm deliberating, I'm contemplating, I'm thinking about the evidence, I'm thinking about the situation, I'm thinking about the circumstance, I'm thinking about the production, thinking about the production company of Rust itself, thinking about the industry itself. And how about if instead of just throwing some girl in jail, which already happened, and that is what happened, and it's what's happening, and I have no control over it, but I'm just talking on a video because I fucking can and I want to. How about instead of that, what if there were actually nuanced ways to take care of situations? Hannah is not a criminal. Hannah is not somebody who meant harm. Hannah was not willfully choosing to just be ignorant, inexperienced, negligent, not knowing what she's supposed to do. I don't think she was on purpose not doing her job. I think she genuinely didn't know, and there was no one who knew better, who was more experienced, who was guiding her. All of the people who are screaming that it was her job, she should have known, she was in control, well, she didn't know, and she didn't have control, and she didn't have the experience, and no one made it clear to her. No one spelled it out for her. Yes, she knew she was in charge of the guns in the way she knew it, but did she really know it, is the point. She didn't know what she didn't know, and she didn't know it, and she didn't have somebody there who was supposed to be there to, I think, who should have supposed to have been there to be telling her exactly, no, you don't have a loose art cart, you have a locked up safe. No, you don't walk away, you do this. No, you don't do that, you do this. No, you don't let them do this, you do that. Yes, yes, yes. No, no, no. Guidance, guidance, guidance. That's the whole point that I feel was missing. That needs to be legally required. Hannah was hired by a production company that should have never hired her in that role. Should they have hired her as an armorer's assistant? Sure. If she had been hired underneath somebody who had all the qualifications and certifications and licensing and experience and so forth that a person would need to actually be able to have the confidence, the experience, the authority to halt a whole production and say, this is absolutely not, this is not the way it should be. This is not the way it's going to be. These guns shouldn't be on an art cart. We need to have a secured, locked, safe storage place where the guns go. We need to have standard operating procedures. We need to have check-in logs and checkout logs and inventory control and all of these things. If it had been a professional production, and or if there were some industry standards that said no matter how low budget you are, no matter what size of a movie you are, if you're going to have a gun on your set, then these are legal requirements. You need to have these standards. You need to have these things in place, these safety measures, and that is across the board, and that is a legal requirement. If that was the case, then this would have been a very different case. Then Hannah would have been either obviously lying and obviously claiming to have skills, knowledge, and so forth that she didn't have. So if she had taken the job, then she would have been legally liable for that because obviously she was lying. And or the production company would also have been held liable for hiring somebody who wasn't legally qualified to do the job. Or another scenario might have been that Hannah would have not even been able to take the job except to be as an assistant. Again, if those were legal requirements in order to do that type of job, then somebody like Hannah could only ever be hired as somebody else's assistant. And that would have created the structure where she could have been on the job, she could have been doing the job, she could have done it maybe even part-time if that's feasible, and learned from the expert, the person who already had all the certifications. Okay, so maybe there's a way that says in order for you to be the armorer who is the one in charge, you have to have X amount of experience, and so in order to gain that experience you need to work as an armorer's assistant. So maybe you can be an armorer's assistant, but an armorer's assistant should never be left alone or held responsible for the whole thing because they don't have the qualifications, just like you might be some other kind of assistant and have some responsibilities, but you don't have the ultimate responsibility, and it's not your job to set up all the systems in place because you're not qualified to do so. So the whole point of my argument is make the industry responsible for having standards in place, and then those standards will fall on anyone who's trying to do the job or hire someone in that job. Hannah would have never been hired to be the sole armorer and be given that responsibility, and so it wouldn't have been her liability because she wasn't qualified. That's the whole point. She wasn't qualified. And if there were standards set in place, then it would have been clear that she wasn't qualified, and she should have either not been hired as that person to be in charge of everything and to only be an assistant and to be a backup, not to be in charge. Okay? Then the person in charge could have said, we need training days. Hannah's going to do training, but be the one to make sure that the authority was there. My foot has fallen asleep. Ugh. Ow, that really kind of hurts though. My knee. Anyway, that is what I wanted to get off my chest. Another reason why I make the videos is because when I have a thought that won't stop swirling in my mind, when I talk on a video, that helps to get it out. And then I can move on. And I don't have to keep mind looping. And that's also why the video therapy sessions are so important. All right, rubbing out my knee. I want to light an incense. This one is called Cypress Eucalyptus Maroma and Lotus. Let's see. They smell so good. Okay, let's go with the Cypress Eucalyptus. So back to the DoorDash comment. Okay, you don't need any license to be a DoorDash. Yes, you do. You need all those things I already said. You need the driver's license, you need the car insurance, you need the car registration. Okay, and then, so already there's all those three fallacies in your argument or your metaphor or whatever. And then, if you're supposed to be delivering a bag of food, but instead of giving them a bag of food, you give them a bag of cyanide, rat poison. Like the fact that this is what this person thought of, and then they like actually wrote that comment, and then like, you thought you did something? You thought you really thought you dropped that? Like that other idiot said. mic drop. But then he spelled Mike like the name Mike instead of like a microphone mic. So it's like, you just dropped Mike. That's... Oh, that's funny. That's funny. That's funny. Okay, remember my blanket? My blanket with the, what's it say? It's fine day today. It's fine day today. Anyway, thanks for the giggles. So yeah, I've got to maintain my own mental health, maintain my own balance and boundaries between, yes, I love it when you make comments and questions and stuff, but then at the same time, weigh my own mental health and sanity between, am I going to really respond to this person? Am I going to take time out of my day? Am I going to add mental load to try to have a logical, reasoned conversation with someone who is not trying to do that? Like, my first instinct is to answer people sincerely and genuinely. And I have to realize that not everybody's being sincere and genuine. I mean, I do realize that. I do know that, And anyway, so those are my thoughts about that. And should Hannah be in jail? Well, like I always say, I don't believe in shoulding. I do believe in having requirements and licensing and prerequisites and things like that, and I guess that's a type of should, but I don't really think the word is should. I think it's, well, this is what's required, so this is what you need to do. Okay, so it's not about should, it's about need. You need safety, just like in order to drive a car you need to get a driver's license, and depending on where you drive, the rules and the regulations will be slightly different, and the requirements will be different. How old you need to be, how long you need to practice. What are the rules for having a permit? What are the rules for when you have a permit? How can you drive? Can you have a permit and just drive at any time of day and night? No. Can you drive with anyone in the car? No. There's rules. There's regulations, and those are things to help people stay safe. So my solution for the rust issue is standardized safety regulations and requirements and licensing, and make that across the board. Make it a law. Make it a law in the entire United States, or anyone who's even going to produce a movie whose production company is in the United States, even if you're going to be filming overseas, you need to have X, Y, Z. 1, 2, 3 if you're going to have guns. Period. Okay? Then now you have some legal groundwork, a foundation for people, and either they're going to follow the law or break the law. If they break the law and somebody dies, it'll be a lot clearer what the guidelines are. If you hire somebody who's not qualified, if you try to get a job and you're not qualified, the legal consequences will be easier to deal with in the future, and hopefully there won't be issues, but there's always issues. Okay, so that's my solution. Should Hannah be in jail? I feel that Hannah is now the poster girl for all armorers and why there should be regulations and requirements. And I do feel that the jury who voted that she would go to jail were reacting more emotionally and less reasoned, well thought out reasons, because if there is truly no legal requirement for armorers at this time, let's make that a requirement. And like I said, I feel that Hannah doing community service for X amount of hours would be a lot more beneficial to herself personally and to the community. And if she were to do community service in some type of field that was particularly meaningful to Helena Hutchins, the woman who died, then that would be even more meaningful. So, like there was somebody in a comment on Emily's channel, I think it was, saying, this girl needs to be humbled, send her ass to jail kind of thing. And I was just like, that's cruel. That's cruel. It's cruel, in my opinion, to have a mindset that somebody needs to be brought down a notch, like throw her into this cage where she's basically treated barely better than an animal, and that's the appropriate way to handle it. I mean, there's people out here who still are physically assaulting their children because they think that that's the right punishment, or go stand your kid's face against the wall and they think that that's the right punishment, and people who think that being humiliated is the appropriate way to handle when someone misbehaves or does something that they shouldn't, or is so neglectful that someone dies. But like I said in another video, I think I said this yesterday in my video therapy session, if every other pillar in that Rust production was doing what they were supposed to do, this wouldn't have happened. This wasn't a failure of one individual person. This was a failure in every single aspect of this production. And so my whole point is not that Hannah is not accountable, not that Hannah wasn't neglectful, but that the result should be something that's helping. Throwing somebody in jail, unless they are an actual danger to society, like Wendy Adelson, or that they actually did something like murder someone, or pay somebody to murder someone. Like, I don't think that Wendy should go free. And I don't think that there's any amount of time that will ever pass that will ever make me feel like it's been long enough now, it's fine, you don't need to convict her. Okay? That's a very different situation than a girl who was in an industry that didn't have the standards that it should have had, and so she was swept up in this wave of nepotism and egotism and bad management, and literally every grown up in that room, every single person in that production that was supposed to have done what they were supposed to do failed, and she slipped through the cracks, and now she's in jail, and hopefully she won't get terribly abused in there, and hopefully at her sentencing hearing in a month from now they'll say, time served, you're on probation, and that'll be it. And for all of those out there who think, no, fuck that bitch, she should be in jail for 1.5 years, that's your right to think that way. The song that's going in my head right now, you look so dumb right now. I mean, some people might be saying that to me, like, look, she made this whole long ass video about all the reasons why Hannah was not guilty, and 2 hours later they threw that bitch in jail. Okay, so maybe I look so dumb. I don't care though. I don't believe it's dumb to learn how to think, to use your mind, to discern, to not just look at things primitively or black and white, but to actually nuanced, to look at all the facts, all the evidence, all the circumstances, all the situation, and to try to come up with a solution. Okay, so that's my goal. Is I do really enjoy being a solution crafter, learning how to make processes smoother, learning how to operate in a way so that things are clearer and easier to understand. So I advocate for gun safety in all areas. And speaking of gun safety in all areas, and the James Crumley case, the father of Ethan Crumley, who is another school shooter. Ethan so heartbreaking. I can't dive into those because I have children that age, and like, oh gosh, it's just so it's so heartbreaking, and it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable that we live in a society where teenagers are getting access to guns and going into schools and doing this, and there's so many problems in this society regarding guns. And even just talking about movies, it's hard to find movies. Well, it's not hard, but I watch a lot of foreign film because a lot of American movies are about guns and violence. And it's always like some white lady or some white guy who they're going to save the world with their guns. I don't know. It's kind of crazy and ridiculous, but the industry is there. It's not going away. I don't think trying to protest and get guns banned is the answer. Of course, anybody who wants to do that, you know, I would never discourage anybody. I'm just saying, I feel that it would be more impactful to fight for regulations and standards. I do want to just say that hearing myself say that did remind me of my brother arguing with me, saying, you know, trying to fight for people to be vegan, you know, that's a waste of time. You should just fight for better regulations. And I was like, that has not, like, better regulations does not help me in not eating animals. And so I did feel like suggesting better regulations was just way off base in that situation. So if you're somebody who feels that guns should be banned and you want to fight for that, by all means, fight for that. I'm not arguing against what people feel that they should fight for or fight against. I'm just saying, in this case and in this particular scenario, I'm talking specifically about improving regulations and standards. So I just wanted to say that because it kind of irked me to hear myself say that, knowing how I reacted when my brother said something about fighting for regulations versus, you know, an overall abolishment or abolitionist view. So I just wanted to mention that. I think that fighting for safety, fighting for standards, fighting for regulations, fighting for laws that enforce these standards and safety regulations, I think that that's the right way to go for somebody who wants to fight for that. That's not my path. And then that brings me back to the very beginning of this video, which is what I was saying. Do I want to continue yesterday's video therapy session, which was about my path? Where am I going next? What is it that I even want to do? I have some clients and I want to figure out what I'm doing for these clients. Is that what I want to keep doing? Do I want to keep pushing ahead so that I can get more clients like that? Or do I want to work more on becoming a better video editor? And last night I looked at video editing jobs and I saw a job. It's like up to 150 per hour, and it's video editing, but it's also like from ideation to completion and launching, and then social media aspects in there, and a lot of things, like not just making videos, but, you know, figuring out how to make videos that are going to be more impactful. And there's a lot of marketing in there and like video production stuff. And I've made a few videos that are an hour and a half, 2 hours, even made a 3-hour video. And making videos is something that I truly enjoy. But how would I spin that into a career where I'm not just making my own videos for myself, but then I'm making videos for others? Is that what I want to do? I don't know. That's what I'm contemplating. Do I want to continue being the consultant that I am and try to get more clients to do that? Or do I want to just focus on the ones that I have while I shift and evolve over here to do other things? Do I want to try to grow my channel and gain more memberships and then start to put out courses that I can sell? That's something I've been wanting to do on the back burner for a while. So these are all the things that I'm thinking about, like my creative output and production and my livelihood, and how do I want to spend my days? What is it that I really want to do? What do I want to focus on? Something else that I've started to incorporate more is and this ended up looking very unintentionally like, there's some cartoon character I think that looks like this, but it was a rainbow that was coming through the window, and then I made these eyes, and then it just turned out and it looked really funny. But so over on my TikTok, which is also cat lovedreamingpeach, I've been playing around with time-lapse art and just letting myself doodle. And I've been an artist all my life, and I have had some times where I've been very, very serious drawing and painting every single day. Also, pottery was a big part of my life for a long time, and that was something that I was very serious about. I absolutely loved it, but then I have not, I stopped. The last time I took a pottery class, I was pregnant with my son, who is now, my younger son, who is now, he turned 12, and so it's been 12 years since I've made pottery. And, I also like to paint, but it's been a while. You can see some of my paintings. These are all they're work in progresses. They're not done. They're just, I take years and years and years to finish them, but I hang them on the wall because I want to. Well, growing up, my dad was an artist, and every room in our house had his art hanging on the walls. So on one hand, it just feels natural. That's how I grew up. But then at the same time, it was also always his art, not my art. And then my baby's daddy is also an artist. And when we were dating in high school, I would go to his house, and his parents had a lot of art all over their walls, but some of it was the mom's art. Some of it was my baby's daddy's art. He was a high school kid, and I was like, oh my God, your parents put your own art up? That's amazing. And so that was something I always wanted to do. So some of this stuff up here is my kids' art, and yeah. So allowing myself to evolve and grow and up-level in my artistic endeavors, my dancing and stretching and yoga and walk and talks, and making better videos and getting insight coaching clients. Those are things that I really want to explore and expand upon. So that's the end of this video. It's a mixture. If you're interested in watching yesterday's video therapy session, I go out for a walk, I talk a lot, and if you enjoy the way I think and process, and you do like hanging out with me, contemplating things, and being willing to be wrong and being willing to be different. And I'm not saying I'm wrong about Hannah, I'm saying I'm wrong to think she shouldn't be in jail, but I am saying that that's not what everybody else, that's not what whoever was on the jury thought, and that's not what a lot of people think. And that's why I said that somebody said, you're like 1 in a million who would think she's innocent. And I said, well, actually, it's probably more like 700,000 out of a million would say she was guilty. And I say that because on all the polls that I saw on Peter's channel and Emily's channel and Alina's channel, everything was split like 60-30 or 65-25, kind of like between guilty, not guilty. Or I would say there was like 20% who were like not guilty, 60 or 50% guilty, and then there was like the 10 to 20% who are like, I don't know. And then there was something I said, well, I guess you'll only hear it if you're a member or a Patreon and you listen to the whole entire video that I made yesterday. But at one point I'm talking about how my clients were able to buy, I say, $250,000 house, but it was actually $750,000. So I just had to say that. And on that note, mwah, happy rainy Sunday. Get some stretching in if you can. And stretch your mind, stretch your brain, stretch your perception, stretch out the way you see yourself. Allow yourself to want better. And may you find people who interest you, who intrigue you, who are inspired by you, who inspire you, who are happy to have conversations with you. And like Hogue says, reasonable minds can differ, and may you find some friends in your life who are reasonable and who do not get offended because you have a different opinion. May you not only find people who don't get offended by you having an opinion, but who also do not insult you and hurl insults at you and name call you and group you into a negative stereotype because you dared to think outside the box or to think differently than the rest of the crowd. And while it's true that being the only one who thinks something or who has a belief or being a minority of thought might mean that you're not well, it might mean that you're delusional, it might mean that you're just, out there. It might also mean that you're a very strong individual who has a strong will to speak of an opinion, despite the fact that most people have mobbed together. Now, sometimes they're correct. I don't think the fact that Hannah was found guilty of involuntary manslaughter is wrong. I'm not saying, all you 12 people are wrong. I'm saying the fact that there was jail time on the table is what was wrong. I feel that the option to put her in jail as a punishment for a crime, I feel that that's what was wrong in this case. I feel that what is appropriate is to hold her accountable and to lay out a program of rehabilitation and education and community service and, paying back to the community by having to do the community service. And those are things that I think would actually benefit. And like I already said, maybe something that Helena Hutchins cared about deeply, maybe something that her son cares about deeply, and or her husband, or something that she was already working on, or whatever it is, like learning how to think about things in a way that says, how can we take a terrible tragedy, a terrible mistake, a terrible neglect, and turn it into something useful and helpful that we can grow and up-level and learn from. And that's what I want to do in my life. And another thought to that person who left the comments and then at the end said, of course, I would jump to the assumption that he was racist and homophobic, even though, shocker to me, he's actually a black man. Shocker, because he has no photo, he has no profile picture, he has no content. which I had said, oh, you're racist and homophobic, after he left a comment, which was blocked, saying something about, oh, black people want to talk about being oppressed and everything is LGBTQ, and kind of giving vibes of like a homophobic white racist guy. So, you know, that's why I said that. But, you know, you can be prejudiced and closed-minded and ignorant, no matter what level of melanin you have in your skin. You can still be homophobic. You can still be someone who looks down on others because they live differently than you or think differently than you. So, regardless of how you look, you can be a closed-minded person who makes snap judgments about other people, or you can be someone who doesn't make snap judgments and doesn't have prejudice, but still thinks it's acceptable to be verbally abusive to people because you don't agree with them. And the whole point of what I'm saying is, again, to quote Rick Hogue at Hogue Law, you can go check his channel out if you're into games and stuff. And he's a lawyer as well. He talks about lies and headlines and a lot of stuff that's interesting too. The practice of law is set up on the premise that different opinions are going to be coming from two sides that are going to argue in a reasonable, calm manner, where things are going to be brought forth as evidence, and we're going to either object or allow it. We're going to think about it. We're going to contemplate. It has in its system the knowing that different people have different opinions, and that if you respect that and you allow the space for people to deliberate without hurling insults, without starting to name call, without reverting to ignorant, closed-minded, prejudiced, verbally abusive, self-important, egotistical, narcissistic, cruel, you know, and I think I said idiot, and I might have said a few names, okay? But I am working on actually learning how to have intelligent conversations with people who have different opinions. And while that's not my focus, I'm not like trying to be a mediator, but I do want to allow for the conversations, the comments to flow, even if they disagree with me, except when you start to name call, and if you start to hurl insults, and you start to make sweeping generalizations, that I will have no tolerance for. So that is the last thing I wanted to say. And it's raining a lot, so there is a ASMR sound machine pick rainy night in the suburbs setting. Rainy night in the suburbs where everybody's out and about, cars driving by and the rain, but it's not a thunderstorm. There's no lightning. I guess we need a couple more months until we get into the summer for that. So I hope you have a wonderful weekend. And if you've actually made it to the end of the video, thank you so much for hanging out with me. Thank you for listening to me. Like I said in the beginning of the video, these videos are a way for me to release my thoughts, to share what I think. And sometimes I'm wrong. Sometimes my mind changes. Sometimes I evolve. That's where the love comes in from Cat Love Dreaming Peach. Love is the lovely opinionated vegan evolution, and I am Cat Love Dreaming and Living Peach, and I evolve. So I completely accept the verdict that Hannah Gutierrez-Reed was found guilty of involuntary manslaughter because they felt that she was criminally negligent in doing her job as an armorer. And all the bureaucracy aside, hopefully this will actually make change in the industry and there won't be another person to slip through the cracks again. Okay, have a wonderful weekend. What I really want to do with my life is take all of my skills and experiences, all of my interests and personal preferences, and be able to craft my day, craft my life, be with my children, have the money that I need to have a nice place to live, have a nice car to drive, be able to buy the clothes, the shoes, the food, the classes, the up-leveled experiences for myself and my children that we want to enjoy. And I want to be able to spend my days doing the things that I love, sharing my thoughts, sharing my insights, helping people, working with people to gain insight into their own lives, dancing and stretching and doing yoga and Pilates and whatever combination of that I put together. Take all my experiences dancing and stretching and moving my body and do that every day. Have a studio where I can dance and stretch and have classes for others to dance and stretch and to make my art and to share my thoughts and to develop my thoughts and to write down what I want to write down or make audiobooks or make videos. Actually, I think I'd rather do videos, but all of that is my motivation, my inspiration, my intentions, my desires, my dreams, and the life that I am living and intend to manifest. Oh, and maybe I'll find a partner somewhere in there. It's Saturday. I don't know what got me all kicked off thinking it was Sunday. My kids are with their dad, and it's always Saturday when they're with their dad. I don't know what happened in my brain. It is Saturday, March 9th, 7:12 p.m., 2024. All day I've been writing it in my notebook that it was Sunday, March 10th. I thought it was daylight savings time, which it's going to be tonight at 2 a.m. or tomorrow. I don't know exactly. Okay, that's funny. I'm so relieved. I was so stressed that tomorrow was Monday. Okay, have a great weekend. Happy Saturday. And I hope that this was helpful, interesting, and at least entertaining. Mwah! See you in the next one. Bye.